Welcome back, boys. Today we have an interesting one. Gen Alpha can't read, but it's okay because we have AI now. By Ashley Embers. Let's check it out.
I'm Gen Alpha. I've never lived a day without technology.
Technology is ruining education. The costs of student use of technology are far outweighing the benefits.
The kids of today are not motivated at all, even doing a fun book study, like they don't care.
And so these kids just have these devices in their hands that they think will get them through the rest of their life, and they're failing in life and in my class.
These kids can't read, they can't decode, they have no vocabulary, no background knowledge. I've never seen anything like it.
I think the schooling system is not preparing people for a world that exists. We haven't grasped the fact that AI is going to be the biggest, most disruptive technology in the lives of our children.
My kids hopefully will never be smarter than AI.
The calculator doesn't mean we stop teaching math. So we have to do the same type of updating with artificial intelligence.
Unless we take personal accountability to teach and learn human skills, they will disappear.
How many people are fully doing all their schoolwork, writing their papers, getting their degrees using AI? We're so doomed.
Students are facing academic challenges at levels we've never seen before. 40% of students across the nation can't read at a basic level kind of trouble. And at this point, it's kind of an undeniable fact that kids are less than all right, as we see behavioral issues on the rise and cognitive efforts decline. Point being, Gen Alpha just can't catch a break, and no one can quite figure out why. But just as we thought it couldn't get worse, AI entered the scene. And now we have to deal with kids using ChatGPT to do their homework for them, meaning they don't even have to think for themselves anymore. As a parent with two littles entering the school age soon enough, I'm very nervous and confused about the schooling world and wonder what's even important in education anymore. Because in a modern world, is it really that bad for students to outgrow an education system designed 50 years ago? Well, that's what we're going to try and get to the bottom of today, how education got this bad, if technology is to blame, and if AI will be its redemption arc or fry every last brain cell Gen Alpha has left. So I was wondering where kids fall on this kids these days severity scale, because people have been raising their fists at the youth for generations now. We need look no further than the Offspring's 90s hit, The Kids Aren't Alright. So either they were ahead of their time, or kids are just made to be perpetually criticized. Well, we can start by looking at a recent headline, the elite college students who can't read books. Not the most promising place to start, but in this piece, Nicholas Dames, professor at Columbia University,
It's always like the older generation shitting on the younger generation. That shit will, I think it will always exist. For me, I wish I could, oh bro, I wish I could speak to the, greatest generation. The people after, before the boomers. Because, boomers are boomers. But like the people before them, holy shit. I think Gen Z and them have a lot of common. Or I think it's a good match, I should say.
He shared his concerns, saying that over the past decade, students have become overwhelmed with reading and are bewildered by the thought that they have to finish multiple books in one semester. And it's not just that kids are struggling with reading novels, they don't know how to. One student even shared that she was never required to read an entire book in high school. But that is just the tip of the iceberg of the failing education system. So let's take it back all the way to elementary school, because this is an issue with many layers of challenges where children are going through the early school years with foundational gaps and learning deficiencies. To start with reading,
schools are incredibly feminine places, and I think a lot of kids, a lot of young boys and men especially don't fit into that system, because you're told to sit still and basically be a girl. Don't show energy. Maybe you have a little bit more energy and you want to go and run around and use that energy, but instead they put you in another room, or worse, give you some kind of medication to calm you down. That shit is destructive.
Because it's the worst of them all, kids have never been so behind on reading levels. There's a reason why we see this trend of kids don't know how to read on TikTok. And it's not all talk. To repeat for emphasis, 40% of first grade students were well below grade level in reading in 2020, compared with 27% in 2019.
I say this with the utmost love and
patience that I can say it with. Y'all, the literacy rates right now are insane. They're crazy. Kids aren't reading. They're not recognizing letters. They're not recognizing letter sounds. This is gonna go much deeper than we think it's going to go. There's teachers in 5th grade saying that their students are reading on a 2nd, 3rd grade level. I have students that can't recognize their letter sounds. I teach 1st grade.
So as you can see, this is a problem from day one of school for a lot of kids, where they aren't learning the foundations.
Yeah, and the thing is, they learn later or don't learn at all, and this shit like ricochets later. Like if you don't fix it immediately, as the years go by, they just fall further and further behind. The thing is, you'll be left with these retards, and it's like fuck. I think AI can be used in a good way to teach children, but it has to be a real person there. But the thing is, the AI can create like a almost perfect curriculum for a specific student based on their strengths and what their interests are. It can push them towards what they truly want to learn about. It's like some people are extremely, how do I say it? Like they're very like autistic. They love numbers and stats and all this shit. They're extremely like autistic like that. And then there are people like me who fucking love history and people and learning about that shit and philosophy. But those things don't mesh. And if we can use AI to, you know, create programs for each student, that would be great. But the thing is, I think homeschooling is good. Like if a parent can use AI to create a curriculum for their own kid with AI, with the help of AI, I should say. This could maybe I'm hopeful. I don't know. Am I too hopeful? But I can see some good. But the thing is, it has to be done in a good way. Like the way things are now, things are shit. What AI is doing, it's instead of the human learning to think, the human gives the thinking to the machine, which is AI, and then the human stops thinking. This is like kind of common sense way to think about it.
Of reading, so they have nothing to build upon. As this 1st grade teacher shares, most years by the 3rd week of 1st grade, Heather Miller is working with her class on writing the beginning, middle, and end of simple words. This year, she had to backtrack all the way to the letter H.
We've all heard of the issues with these kids that are being raised on iPads and the parents blaming teachers and not being hands-on in their academics. But when I tell you I was absolutely flabbergasted at the interaction that I had with a child yesterday, I just have no words for it. I'm a bartender at a resort, and this family came up to the bar to order their food. One of the kids, who's about 8 or 9 years old, asked what flavor of Dippin' Dots we had, so I handed her a menu. This way she could read the flavors, and I was going to continue helping the rest of the party. When I tell you that I handed her the menu and she looks at me dead in the eyes and goes, I can't read. I was left absolutely speechless for a few seconds. You're going to tell me around 2nd, 3rd grade she can't read?
And the trends only get worse as we move into the high school statistics, where in 2022, nearly 70% of 8th graders scored below proficient, and of those, 30% scored below basic. So that's how reading's going. But what about math? Well, it's also on a different sort of struggle bus. In spring 2023, just 56% of American 4th graders were performing on grade level in math, down from 69% in 2019. Now, as we know, a lot went on in the 2019-2020 school year to explain these numbers. And while school from home had a massive negative effect on kids' learning, it was not the initiator, but merely an amplifier. Kids are just behind in reading and math, and they're not catching up. As we see here, over time, scores in reading, and especially math, have generally trended upward or held steady. But over the last decade or so, student scores have leveled off rather than gaining.
I think a major problem is these parents are too fucking lazy. They give their little baby a fucking iPad or an iPhone in the fucking crib, in the stroller. I see this shit all the time. It breaks my heart, bro. I will never do that shit. If I have kids, they're no bullshit until they're like 17. I don't give a fuck. 16. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I grew up without a phone. I think I grew up decently. I see people, they get completely ruined with this shit. The kids get ruined with this shit. They get completely brain rotted. And Like, fuck. Like, don't the parents try to sit down with their own fucking kid and read stories and some shit? Like, what the fuck are these parents doing? Of course, they're probably at fucking work and they don't get to see their kid a lot. But that's kind of the system right now. It's like it's child raising has been given to the fucking bureaucracy, to the state, because the parents can't survive without that shit. Like, you can no longer have just a woman stay at home and raise the kid. Now it has to be the fucking bureaucracy, the systems, and the systems are shit. And the kids grow up in the systems, and then they start to kind of go against their parents. They start to learn about all these different bullshit. It's like, whoa, 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 wait. I put my kid in the school to learn to read and to do fucking math and shit and learn history, and you're teaching my fucking kid that it should and can change genders. You're telling my boy that he should start kissing boys. What the fuck? I think a lot of parents are like, what the fuck are the school systems doing? But a lot of them are powerless, bro. What the fuck are they supposed to do? That's kind of why I'm a little hopeful for this AI shit and teaching, because then it will be no bullshit. Because then you can control what the fuck your own child, what your own legacy learns. Like, what?
And I just want to take a moment to emphasize how big of a deal this is, because early education shapes a child's overall experience and success in school. Low scores in math and reading specifically are a major cause for concern, because these are the skills essential to success in nearly every other subject. When students struggle in these areas, it often leads to falling behind across the entire curriculum.
Every year that I've ever taught band, at the beginning of the year, when you're dealing with beginner musicians, the first thing that you do is teach them how to read notes on a music staff. And usually what I see in my classes when students are having a hard time identifying the note names on the staff, most of the time these issues have to deal with them not understanding that there's a line space, alternating orders. But this past year, it was different. They weren't just having those typical issues that you would have to work through. A lot of these kids would not even use alphabet symbols. They would be making up symbols. They would not even know how to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G on their piece of paper. They would also have issues not knowing alphabetical order in general. So if they knew how to write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they couldn't answer.
These are future adults. These are gonna have to control something in society. It's like, what the fuck? Holy shit. You know, I gotta be happy about something. At least I'm not Gen A. At least I'm Gen Z. Like, fuck.
Answer to me what letter would come after C in the alphabet. And I'm not just talking 1 or 2 kids in the class. I'm talking closer to 50%. We're talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, kids that are about to go into high school.
Research shows if children are struggling to read at the end of first grade, they're likely to still be struggling as fourth graders. And in many states with third grade reading gates in place, students could be at risk of getting held back if they haven't caught up within a few years. And so if you're not on track in, say, grade 2, then your likelihood of keeping up by the time you reach high school plummets. So now the question is, what the frick happened to education? All these stats of children falling behind are honestly so scary to hear as a parent, and has really opened my eyes about how involved we need to be. My oldest Rook is entering kindergarten this fall, and so the importance of a well-rounded education has really just been on my mind, especially because we're going to be homeschooling, so his success literally falls on my shoulders. But with that, I've been scouring the web for resources to kickstart our education journey, and that's where today's partner comes in, IXL. IXL is an online learning program. So before we get into how technology, get 25% off your first year or first month with IXL. So before we get into how technology specifically is changing school, we need to address the already prevalent issues in the school system. With that, I'm going to attempt to break down the problems in school, but that is a big task, especially when even teachers can't all agree on it, but I'll try my best. The first problem being kids aren't getting enough attention and the help they need in the classroom. I remember even when I was in grade school, class sizes were on the rise, and COVID just expedited that. Because as we know, we had a ton of teachers quitting during the 2020.
Yes, you want like a teacher. In schooling, you want a teacher that knows about your problems and knows about you. Like if you're sitting in a classroom and there's 30, 40, fucking 50 students, it's like the teacher doesn't give a fuck about you. There's too much for the teacher, and you'll be left behind if you have like a major problem that you don't like if you have like a minor problem you don't understand, and it's like the class keeps progressing and that gets skipped, and you don't learn that might have big implications later. It's like you might have really needed that but you didn't get it. I don't know what like the optimal class room like size is. I think it's probably around like, I don't know, between like 7 and or 14, something like that. Like smaller classrooms. I don't think throwing a bunch of kids together is gonna make them throwing a bunch of kids together and one teacher is not gonna make them smart. I don't yeah.
2021 school year.
After years of being told don't like teaching, just quit, guess what teachers are doing? In record numbers.
Some opting for early retirement during the height of the health crisis, while others left due to differing ideologies towards medicine. There was also a lot of burnout in juggling in-person teaching and remote teaching at the same time, leading some teachers to quit, and some simply just could no longer manage the behavioral issues of Gen Alpha. In fact, a survey in January 2021.
Yeah, I've heard about this. They don't act right. They're completely like crazy. They yeah.
It found that nearly one.
But let the teachers say it themselves. I haven't experienced it that much myself.
Quarter of teachers indicated a desire to leave their jobs at the end of the school year, compared with an average national turnover rate of 16% pre-pandemic. And so class sizes have needed to increase because there's literally no other option when we already were dealing with a teacher shortage and then a massive group of them up and left.
I've been a substitute teacher for nearly a year now, and I just want to say, if you are sending your kids to public school, please ensure that they are doing extra learning on the weekend, extra learning when they get home from school, because I've just witnessed being in a classroom with over 35 kids, one teacher. Now, I don't understand how they're doing that on a day-to-day basis, but for me, that was just overwhelming.
But on top of the teacher shortage, the curriculum being taught.
For me, we had classrooms. We had like a class. We were like 90-ish, 100-ish in my class. So we were split up in 3 different sections. So we were around like 30 kids classroom. So, fuck, I can't quite remember. This was in like middle school, I think, ish. Age 13 and 15, 16. And then elementary school, that was like 5, yeah, it was like 30, 35 kids.
Has been problematic as well. How convenient. If you've been watching for a while, you've heard me talk about the problem of phonics in early education and how children across the country have been taught to be poor readers for decades now. I won't go too in depth on it because, like I said, I've talked about it before, but it is still needed in this conversation. So in the 90s, the standard for teaching reading to kids switched from phonics-based to what's called 3Qing. This is because new research was showing that kids learn reading better by being thrown into it head first rather than being taught how to actually sound out words and learn the rules, because that's too boring and old school. And so this new system essentially taught kids to read by memorizing sight words and looking for clues in the book to figure out words they don't know. The name 3Qing comes from the notion that readers use 3 different kinds of information, or cues, to identify words as they're reading. This means they're looking at the pictures for reference, guessing what word makes sense next in the sentence, and skipping over what you don't know and coming back to it later if you can't figure it out. Which is like actually kind of crazy. Like, I don't know how everyone got on board with it. There must have been some kind of propaganda going on. Because what happens when you run into a word with no context and no skills to actually decode that word?
I was at a kinder parent-teacher conference, and that teacher wants Pepper to show off her newly found reading skills. And we come to the word mother. Now, that should never be in a book, since in this level book at all, right? Because that is not decodable for a kindergartner. It's very common in these balanced literacy texts because they're expecting you to 3Q. So she prompts her on the 3 Qs. Look at the picture, look for clues in the word or around the word, and ask yourself if it makes sense. And Pepper can't do it, so we're left to decode. So I want everybody to try to sound out the word mother like a kindergartner way, right? Ah, right? We can't blend that ever into the word mother. And that's because mother is not a decodable word for a kindergartner.
Also, in researching for this video, I realized that I think I was taught some of the 3Qing growing up, which I guess makes sense because I'm a 90s baby, so obviously. But when I read one of the cues being skip over words and come back to it later, it like unlocked a memory for me of struggling to read as a kid. But the short version of phonics history is that school districts...
I can't remember when I learned to read, but some of you guys have heard me read. I'm pretty shit at reading. But I'm getting better. I've noticed I've gotten better speaking doing this channel, so I'm gonna get fucking better reading as well. I see other channels that can read shit super fast out loud. I need to get better at that. I never did that shit as a kid. Yeah.
Districts were convinced of this new system on the basis that children have an inherent ability to learn reading, just like they have the ability to learn to walk and talk all on their own. And so millions of taxpayer dollars were thrown at curriculum materials for this theory of learning. And therefore, millions of children were reading on the basis of guessing words, whether they looked right or sounded right. And the problem here, as you can guess, is that they aren't actually reading, they're faking it till they make it. And teachers didn't know any better, so they just went along with the new style and were told that it was going to make reading fun and easy for kids. Margaret Goldberg, a teacher in the Oakland Unified School District, was with a first grader named Rodney when he came to a page with a picture of a girl licking an ice cream cone and a dog licking a bone. The text said, "My little dog likes to eat with me." But Rodney said, "My dog likes to lick his bone." Rodney breezed right through it, unaware that he hadn't read the sentence on the page. Goldberg realized lots of her students couldn't actually read the words in their books. Instead, they were memorizing sentence patterns and using the pictures to guess. One little boy exclaimed, "I can read this book with my eyes shut." Oh no, Goldberg thought, that is not reading. So, big problem. And
So they're teaching the kids to look at the fucking picture to, like, what? Like, how the fuck does looking at the picture, you, like, what? So instead of reading, they just look at the picture and just explain what the picture is doing instead of reading. Fuck. I can never be a fucking teacher, bro, like that.
Reason why kids aren't proficient readers, because when they grew up and grew out of picture books, they didn't have the skill set to decode new words. There is some good news at the end of this though, as the tides are turning. We're now seeing the return of phonics curriculum, as at least 14 states have banned 3Qing from parts of the education system over the last few years. But we do still have to deal with the consequences of 2 generations being brought up on the 3Qing system. As before, I will link the Sold Story podcast, which tells the whole story of the phonics phenomenon, but in a like true crime style. It's super fun to listen to, and I would highly recommend. On to math. From what I can see, there aren't any deep-rooted educational malpractices that are harming kids' math skills, but the fact still remains that math proficiencies have been decreasing. The most prominent reason for this, of course, was COVID, average scores for age 9 students in 2022 declined 5 points in reading and 7 points in mathematics compared to 2020. This is the largest average score decline in reading since 1990 and the first ever score decline in mathematics. And while this was just a 2-year problem of children learning from home and not getting the math comprehension and help that they needed to get through it, the effects are serious and long-lasting. This is again because of the compounding effect of losing your basic math skills. These missed skills just grow bigger and bigger as the kids get older. But we can't just blame these poor math scores on one singular antagonist in the story. No, that would be too easy, because this is a complex issue that includes environmental and attitude issues from the children themselves. So let's talk about how kids are sabotaging their own education. For one, kids just don't think school is important anymore. In a world where they see millennials struggling to get jobs with their degrees in hand, the major layoffs in tech jobs that were supposed to be the largest growing and highest paying field in decades to come, and the growing reality that higher education doesn't always lead to the American dream. It's no wonder why students question whether it's worth the effort.
The kids of today are not motivated at all. Even doing a fun book study, like, they don't care. What's worse about not caring about their work is they don't care about consequences. They don't care if they get in trouble. They don't care if they get in school suspension. They don't care if you call their parents. How do you battle that? You can't. It's like you're fighting against a unmovable wall. It's just so draining and disheartening when you're putting your heart and soul to something for like hardly any care. Like, you can focus on the kids that care, but man.
But I don't believe that these ideas of school not preparing you for the real world are the only reasons students are losing ambition. Rather, they reinforce the mindset of those who are...
I think as someone who, I didn't go the college route or university, for me it was after 10th grade, you had to pick what kind of route you go. So I went high school to go trades, and then I started working. School was never for me. I never gave a fuck. Never. Because I remember so fucking vividly sitting in a classroom and there's just a shit ton of like numbers of like algebra. And I was thinking this at like grade 7, grade 8. I was thinking like, when the fuck am I ever going to use this shit? And to this day, I still don't fucking know algebra, and I still never had to use that shit. But shout out to the people who use that shit, right? Who really like that shit. It's good that it exists and all. But for me, bro, I wish I would have learned. Back then, there was nothing at all in school that fucking interested me. Nothing at all. Nothing. I give a fuck. But fuck, I wish somebody would have shown me real history or philosophy. Then I think that shit would have woken something up. I always questioned the stuff being said in like, not like politics class, but it was just like in the world in general. Things going on, how things work, why they work like this, how, why, blah, blah, blah. When topics like that were brought up, I was always the one caring the most, or not caring the most, but like I was the most invested into that, while others were into more math and stuff like that, papers and tests and all that. But I really like to discuss and learn about thinking and stuff like that at school, but we never went too deep into it. And it, thinking back, it was just a lot of it was just like ideological bullshit, not propaganda. Yeah, propaganda, but like, yeah, it wasn't that nice. So in the end, I just liked physical PE, like physical education, basketball and all that. I was there. I like that.
already struggling and offer a convenient justification for why they don't need to push through and fight to succeed in school. Because it's not just math and reading comprehension that are falling short, but their confidence and sense of identity as learners are also suffering. The early years don't just build academic foundations, they shape how children see themselves in relation to learning. When students struggle early on, they often adopt the belief that they're just
Yeah, it's like if you don't show them that learning can be fun, about learning what, like learning about what the fuck you care about, they start to hate learning. They start to hate doing this shit. It's like what's the point? I'm learning some bullshit. It's like they need to learn something they give a fuck about, that they can see helps them. But the shit they're learning, probably they see that shit and they're like, what the fuck is this? It's the same with me and algebra. It's probably the same for them. And yeah.
simply not good at school, which diminishes their motivation to improve. As these students move up in grade levels without having mastered,
It's definitely hard going to school when you haven't found exactly what you want to learn. Like what passion do you have? I didn't have that shit. I finished school without ever finding what I truly loved to learn about and what I cared about. I found that shit at adulthood. But then, then it comes to self-education. Like that is the most important thing, is like, do you care about what you're learning so much that you will go out of your way in your free time to learn about it? Like that shit is where the love is. That's where the knowledge is, the passion is. Because the school system now is like, boom, school is finished. Okay, boom, now I can go on Fortnite. Now I can go on TikTok. It's like none of these kids, nobody gives a fuck about the shit they're learning.
key reading and math skills, their confidence continues to decline, and they feel so far behind that catching up feels impossible. Student test scores, even starting in first, second, and third grade, are really quite predictive of their success later in school and their education trajectories overall. Being so far behind could lead to disengagement in school, making it less likely they graduate from high school or attend college. And to tie this back to my previous video about children growing up fragile with no grit to push through hard things, they tend to just sink into this identity of being bad in school. And once that mindset takes hold, it becomes incredibly difficult to pull them out of it. But to get further into the mind of a teenager, a scary thought, I know, but there are a lot of mental setbacks leading to children's struggles as well. Among adolescents aged 12 to 17, the percentage who received mental health services in specialty mental health setting in the past year increased from 11.8% in 2002 to 16.7% in 2019. And the idea of kids' mental health deteriorating has had some pushback, because it could just be that there's more reporting and diagnoses of mental health problems, because there are, but there's also strong evidence that things like social media are doing immense damage on children's mental health. Children and adolescents who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of mental health problems, including experiencing symptoms of depression.
You think these are like major tech CEOs let their fucking kids have these devices? Cause they fucking don't. They like, bro, it's crazy how the people creating this shit don't let their own kids use it. Just think about that. I think there should be like a fucking straight up ban. Anyone under 16, none of this shit, social media and shit. Why? Like genuinely, why the fuck should a kid have Facebook or Instagram? Like what the fuck? Yeah, I think this era where all this shit is new and untested, like in decades, in the future, they're gonna look back at this age and they're gonna think, what the fuck were we doing? What the fuck were we doing? That's what they're gonna write about in the fucking history books, bro.
And anxiety. And these mental health challenges, of course, play a role in how motivated and capable a child is in the classroom. And this is where finally technology enters the conversation. Because on top of the
Like the thing is, all of these things combined, it like the kids' imagination gets ruined. I don't think these kids can imagine shit. They lack imagination and creativity and all that. Like all these like human aspects. everything is so like autistic in the school systems.
Mental health problems that modern technology brings. These screens are also turning our children into goldfish with non-existent attention spans.
These kids get bored very easily, and the moment they get bored, they look to stimulate themselves or to do something that makes them feel interested, and that is very regularly not good choices.
The constant notifications and multitasking habits prevent students from fully engaging with learning materials, resulting in weaker memory retention. As research indicates, frequent switching between tasks, such as checking social media while studying, hampers the formation of strong long-term memories. Many teachers have come forth and said that kids can't pay attention anymore because they're so accustomed to short-form content.
There was a thing in my school with like phone like hotels. I think it was that. I think that's what it's called. Basically, you give your phone away at the start of the day, and then boom, you get it back when the day is finished, or you get it back in like breaks or something like that. That's a good thing, I do believe, because why the fuck should you have a phone? Then you can cheat and have a calculator and all that shit. Yeah, we've given so much thinking power to technology that we've stopped being able to think. It's like you have just a basic question that you can figure out yourself, but you're just like, let's chat GPT, it's quick. Let's Google it. Let's math question you can figure out. Nah, just calculator. Fuck it. Chat GPT. And you do this long enough and you never truly learn the skill, you never learn the skill. And then you're shit out of luck. Then you don't know it. So yeah. I think the use of technology has fucked people up.
And anything longer, they check out or doze off.
Every teacher is looking for a way to keep their Gen Alpha kids engaged in their lessons. Traditional teaching methods do not work. Most of them are consuming video games and short form content, so why not teach like that? Watch how I take a regularly boring and tough to explain topic and convert it into a captivating short form video in minutes. All I had to do was type in a 3-sentence prompt and gave it some simple instructions on the format and the type of voice I wanted. Press generate.
Imagine you had a superpower that made you weigh less. Sounds amazing, right? Okay, here's the scoop. Your mass is like the amount of stuff you're made of, and it never changes.
Speaking of dozing off, though, as previously mentioned again, kids aren't getting enough sleep with their unregulated screen time. And so they don't have the ability to learn in class when they're literally fighting sleep the whole lesson. Education is so messy right now.
I thought I hated technology because kids were iPad kids growing up and they just have too much access to games and entertainment, and they don't want to use technology for education. They want to use it for entertainment. And to a degree that is true, but what I am learning is more than that, and that technology is directly contributing to the literacy decrease we are seeing in this country right now. A lot of these kids don't know how to read because they have had things read to them, or they can click a button and have something read out loud to them in seconds. Their attention spans are waning because everything is high stimulation. They can just scroll, watch less than a minute. They can't sit still for very long. Something I've realized is, like, on a day, I know when I was their age, I thought movie days were a treat. I loved movie days. It was a way to relax, kind of take a break. And for them, what they mean when they say they want a movie is they want a movie on in the background for the noise while they scroll on their phones, put their headphones in and look at TikTok and maybe talk to their friends and not pay attention to anything.
And the combination of all of that means that kids are dealing with long-term memory issues. And you know what subject suffers the most from that? Math. Because every year's skills stack upon the previous, and if you can't remember it, then you're stuck falling behind. The constant information overload from kids' phones and social media is brutal on the working memory in school. The brain just can't handle so much information at once, and when it's always being fed new information, it's hard to store everything and differentiate between what's important to keep and what's not.
Have you ever felt like your memory just isn't as sharp after spending hours scrolling on social media? That's not your imagination, and there's actual science behind this. So let me explain. Research has found that people who frequently multitask with digital media have reduced sustained attention and working memory. And social media constantly bombards your brain with quick, ever-changing information and training it to crave instant gratification instead of deep focus. And when you rapidly switch between posts, videos, and notifications, you're not fully engaging with any one thing. So your brain doesn't encode it properly into memory.
Harvard psychologist Daniel Schachter said that while technology can aid in certain cognitive functions, it can also impair our ability to recall information. Schachter explains that when students frequently shift their focus between tasks, such as checking their phones while studying, they don't fully engage with the material. This makes it harder for students to form long-term memories. Additionally, students depend on technology to help them remember more than their own memory. And so if we're looking at whether or not technology has been bad for kids in their journey through school, I think there's definitely something to be said about not using it too early on to prevent overstimulation in like the elementary years. But if the claim is that technology is overall bad and that
Bro, I think a lot of like Gen A dudes, or just Gen A people no, fuck. I mean, a lot of us in Gen Z, are gonna agree that we're not letting our fucking kids become iPad zombies, bro. My kid, fuck no, you're not getting a phone until you're 16. I don't give a fuck. And the thing is, growing up, I was the odd man out. Everybody else had a phone, and I didn't. But I think we watched a video on this before. It's like if more people start doing this shit and not letting their kids become a fucking zombie, what happens is there's gonna be a kid without a phone, but there's also gonna be another kid without a phone, and then you're not alone. For me, I was alone, but the thing is, it went fine. It wasn't like my world wasn't fucking destroyed, because social media was pretty early on, and it didn't fully set in yet. The like complete, like it didn't completely overtake. It didn't completely consume every part of your life. Now it does for these kids, but I was kind of lucky with the timing, of me growing up. But yeah, if more kids grow up with it without this shit, then things will be better. I do believe.
laptops in the classroom are hard.
But then again, what kids? Fertility rate and all that. Had to throw that one in there.
Harmful. I don't think that's true. The real problem here is the use of technology outside of the classroom that's limiting the kids' ability to learn. Okay, but what really throws a curveball in all of this is the rise of AI in schools. Because as much as many teachers want to avoid it, there's no way around students using AI. So how on earth do we navigate this? And what are the implications moving forward? Well, the main problem we've been seeing since 2023, when ChatGPT went live to the public, was, as we know, high school students are straight up using it to do their homework for them. And since then, things have only gotten worse, because obviously kids will opt for not doing work if they can. The share of teens who say they use ChatGPT for their schoolwork has risen to 26%, according to a Pew Research Center survey of US teens ages.
Oh hell no. If I was back in school with this AI shit, bro, I would be probably acing all the tests, bro. Like what? I think 26% okay. No. From 2023. No. This has got to be like 80%, 90%. Are you kidding me?
Is 13 to 17. That's up 13% from 2023. And while this is a big problem, the weirdest part of it, I find anyways, is that college students are doing this, which like, I guess makes sense, but my problem is like, why are you paying?
Yeah, can you just think about this, bro? Your future doctor that is gonna be kind of responsible for you is using ChatGPT to get his degree. How you feel about that, bro? You want a ChatGPT doctor? Fuck, bro.
Paying for an education that you're not learning anything from. Like, it makes more sense why high school students would do it, to just get out of their work, but you go to university to learn a certain skill set and use it in the real world, ideally.
But in terms of like using it to cheat in college, I work in higher ed, and I just want to say, like, wither half-ass your work. That's the time-honored tradition of college. Do your own work badly. Do a shit job. half-ass it. Learning to half-ass things is such an important life skill. And your professors want to see that. Like, they want to see your insane 2 a.m. Adderalled up brain working, you know? Like, that's part of college, is turning in shit that makes absolutely no sense.
So you're really just wasting your money on classes you're learning nothing from, and then you'll enter the workforce with no capacity to comprehend or act on the job's requirements? What is going on? It's a very interesting phenomenon that we'll see play out more in the next 5 years. However, some teachers have accepted the reality of AI as just another tool in our tool belts. Many compare it to calculators not being allowed in math class because we were expected to memorize and master those skills. But once we entered the real world with constant access to these tools on our phones, we found the memorization unnecessary. But people have been saying the same thing with AI, that kids shouldn't have to learn how to research for a paper because in the new world of AI, that's a dead skill.
It does mean we have to change how we test for knowledge. If a student can use ChatGPT to write an essay and get a B, we need to test for that knowledge in new ways. And it doesn't mean writing goes away, right? The calculator doesn't mean we stop teaching math. We got to test for a lot harder concepts in math as a result.
I wish in school they taught real history and philosophy. I wish they had more classes like that. And of course, that's my own biased spin on it since I like it, but that, and we should have common sense classes, I think, because too many people have no fucking common sense. Or maybe a class of learning self-awareness. How about that? Fuck. I don't know, too many people are becoming NPCs out of this fucking school system. And it's kind of designed that way. Or it is, I mean. So, yeah, I see too many people, they have no ability to reflect. They self-analyze. They have no common sense. We're turning out these autistic kids, bro. I'm telling you, and I'm sure a lot of you agree with what the fuck I'm saying.
But the problem with this argument is that AI or
I'm not even that I'm not even that extreme about this shit. I'm just speaking my mind about what is fucking happening.
at least the current version of AI that we have, isn't as cut and dry of a tool as a calculator is, because it still has so many issues in giving false information. So if children are taking what it says in blind faith, then they're not only not learning critical thinking skills, they're also just plain wrong. As said here, today's AI bots are based on complex mathematical systems that learn their skills by
incredibly translation, incredibly autistic school system, and you don't learn in school to become like a person. Does that make sense? You don't learn fucking common sense, critical thinking skills, and shit like that, which is pretty fucking useful, if I can say so. Fuck.
Analyzing enormous amounts of digital data. They do not and cannot decide what's true and what is false. Sometimes they just make stuff up, a phenomenon some AI researchers call hallucinations. On one test, the hallucination rate of newer AI systems were as high as 79%. This is especially a problem when the students are using AI to write papers and then teachers use AI to grade said papers, because then it just becomes this self-reinforcing feedback loop where inaccuracies and misinformation perpetuate without human oversight. What a freaking dystopian world we live in. AI is just only as good as the data it's fed, and at least at this point in AI technology, if we aren't checking its sources, then we're just feeding into the hallucinations. And on the topic of using AI as a tool, many say that as long as we don't use it blindly and instead use it properly, it can be beneficial to learning. Examples being it can be used as a research tool for papers, as long as you check your references. It's great for brainstorming, learning new skills, amplifying creativity, and much more. They say that kids just need to not abuse it and they'll be fine. The difference lies in the intention. But I don't think that's really realistic, because history shows us that no major technological advancement has ever been used used solely for good without also exposing us to its darker consequences. Let's take the US Railroad, for example, which was arguably the most important technological advancement of US history, or at least in the 19th century. But while it revolutionized transportation and connected different regions, fostering economic growth, there also came many problems like the heavy toll on the environment, as the railroad made it easy for large numbers of hunters to travel and kill millions of buffalo and significantly impact indigenous people. And there are plenty of modern examples as well that aren't hard to come up with, like social media with its original purpose being to connect people. What a nice thought. But a nice thought is all it is because our monkey brains can't resist the algorithm that manipulates us into doom scrolling. To no one's surprise, smartphones aren't making us smarter, and the growing evidence suggests that young people use technology to avoid learning rather than augment it. When we give technologies that can be used to augment human skills, the younger people tend to see it as a technology that can replace the need to learn. That's why young people are increasingly bad at skills such as math, driving, and even
I think young kids are bombarded with garbage every second that they're fucking awake. I think more kids need to just I think kids need to be bored as fuck. Because I was bored as shit as a kid. And that made me start to think. I was like, I was thinking and thinking and thinking and getting better at thinking. That's the shit, that's the process. I think more kids need to just be sat down or just let them outside and just boom, let them figure it out. Let them fight with fucking sticks. Let them climb a tree. Learn that shit is risky. Let them fall down the fucking tree. Let them learn about pain and being cautious. Like bro, I don't think these zombies, bro. Like fuck, bro. Yeah, I think more kids need to be bored as shit. Let them let their imaginations flourish.
basic socializing. Rather than do the hard work to understand these critical skills, they just bypass them to the extent that they can with technology. They let calculators do the math, driving assist modes monitor the traffic around them, and rely more on social media for their social skills than actual in-person interactions. This is not only a bad start to a learning revolution, but it sets a precedent that
Yeah, like social media caused like a absolute explosion in like what's it called? Anxiety and stuff. Like, isn't it crazy how like humans, there exist humans that are afraid of connecting with another human? Like what the fuck? There's such an incredible amount of problems this postmodern secular Western world. Like fuck, there's so many problems, and this era is going to be looked at as the like mental illness era, really, an ideological storm. Like they're gonna look at this era and they're gonna think, what the fuck? They believed in this shit. Bro, they're gonna be like, what the fuck were we doing? When they write the history books, bro.
That will cause them to think of technology from an entertainment and convenience perspective first, and its learning potential second, if at all. So why would we expect kids to use AI honorably when their natural instinct is to find the path of least resistance in education? Or ever, I guess. Unless the person using AI has the wisdom and willpower to use it to improve their learning rather than their entertainment, they will rarely use it in this way. And if we're honest, young people aren't typically known for their wisdom and self-control. No offense, your frontal cortex still needs to develop. But besides the fact that kids are now learning their subjects by copying and pasting excerpts off of chat, the real problem that we've alluded to is that they aren't learning the skill of learning. When AI is used for research papers or math problems, kids aren't learning how to actually do the research, how to form a comprehensive argument, how to decipher real sources from fake. They become so dependent on AI that they can't really think for themselves.
So this is the thing, you don't want to be in a situation where, right, you've gone to university, so you've taken yourself out of the workforce, and you've gone to university, and then while you're in university, you haven't used that opportunity to learn how to learn. You've just used that opportunity to take shortcut here, shortcut here, shortcut here, shortcut here, and get and pass and get the degree. And now you're supposed to be this big thinker, this intellectual, this person who can critically think, but you're not. You're somebody who's been taking shortcuts and just producing the thing, right?
This over-dependence on AI results in students.
I've met an incredible fucking amount of like these non-self-aware smart people. You know, they get a degree, so they go to their school and they think they're so much fucking better. And it's like, bro, just one little conversation, you can already tell, like, oh shit, this person is asleep. Like, hello, wake up. Like, what the fuck?
Students not knowing how to do the most basic things. And when you give children who already have a low capacity to learn access to technology that does all the work for them, the problem just amplifies.
It's frustrating and it's disheartening because if I ask a child to handwrite something, even just a paragraph, 5 sentences, basic paragraph, they roll their eyes, they throw tantrums, I'm talking about high schoolers. I teach 10th grade now. They get really, really unruly, and because I'm young too, they want to argue with me about it, and they want to say, why can't we just type it? Why can't we just type it? Well, it's because you'll go on another website, or you'll copy it, or use AI, you'll use ChatGPT. I understand that our world is going in a direction where AI is going to be more prevalent, even in the workforce someday. That still doesn't take away that these are basic skills you need to survive.
This high school teacher shares their experience with it, saying, "What concerns me the most about this debate is what no one is talking about: adolescent brain development. This year, there is a serious decrease in the lack of thinking ability in grade 9 students. It's actually shocking. I mean, really shocking. And that happened when AI had been available to them for only a year. I want to hear more from brain researchers on this. Someone needs to start talking about how adolescent brains work and what teens need to be doing in order to fully develop their prefrontal cortex, for example. Do we want to end up living in a society like in the movie WALL-E? Because that's exactly where..."
Yeah, for me, like, if I'm wondering something, like, fuck no, I'm not immediately fucking scratching that itch to search for it. I'm sitting my fucking ass down and I'm thinking. That's kind of what I like to do. I sit my ass down and I start to think, bro. I hit the pose, like the dude in the background. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking, and I think so much, and I'm thinking like, okay, I got the general draft down. I'm seeing if my common sense and everything I know fits. Then I look into it and I'm like, oh fuck, I got like most of it right. There's some kinks here and there, boom. But yeah, if you just refuse to learn and you just let the AI learn for you, you never develop the skill of learning. That's kind of like
where we're headed. Take a brain that's ripe for development, feed it social media, attention-reducing TikTok videos, and misinformation, then give it a tool that does all the thinking for it. What do you think happens next? Great question. What does happen next? So let's look into the future a little bit. Assuming that AI will improve and become a reliable source of information. Because they say that AGI, artificial general intelligence, is coming by the year 2030, which is really soon and could solve all these flaws we've discussed. But I myself am hesitant to take that prediction on blind faith, but also I'm not a tech person, so take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But AGI is when AI becomes smarter than and indistinguishable from humans and is able to progress the world and change it beyond our ability to even predict. First of all, scary, but the reason I find it kind of sus that they're like, yep, 2030, that's when we'll have it, is just because we've been gaslit about tech advances so many times, so why this time would we take their word for it? Like, I know they're advancing quickly, but I don't like these predictions. Like, look at Apple Intelligence that was supposed to come out in 2024 and still has yet to be good enough to be actually useful at all. But taking it even further back, we had Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos, who promised her technology would revolutionize blood testing with a single finger prick of blood performing multiple tests. And now she's in jail for fraud. My point being that everything I say moving forward is on the basis that all the silicon tech bros aren't stretching the truth. But one of the positive predictions of AI in the future is that it could solve our teacher shortage issue. Instead of one teacher to 30 kids, with AI we have a digital teacher assigned to each student. With an AI-enhanced high-dose tutoring model, every student can have access to their own virtual tutor that adapts.
Nah, fuck no. There still needs to be like a human in real fucking life in front of you fucking teaching you shit. Like, what? Alright, bro. This ain't it. Virtual. Alright.
To their pace, understands their strengths and weaknesses, and provides targeted support. This allows personalized learning to be more accessible. This is a really promising probability, as more educational support can really boost those math skills and reading scores for those who are struggling. The other thing that we have to think about is that the world is changing so much that the format of education that was established in the 1900s is arguably not even applicable to the modern day. So why should we be holding so tightly onto it? Modern education is heavily based on the structure of producing workers who follow orders without question. There is great reward for following the rules and repetition for no reason other than the benefits to those above you. The issue with that structure of repetition and simply following orders is that it is based on an industrial age-like society where those traits of being able to simply follow orders and repetition were rewarded. And that just doesn't matter when there's so much demand for innovation, creativity, thinking outside the box, and the ability to collaborate with others. And that brings up the question of whether education really matters at the end of the day. Like, in 50 years, will it be helpful at all for children to learn problem-solving skills and think critically when AI will be so integrated into our lives that it's just not applicable anymore? Definitely a weird thought, but
Fuck no. Society will collapse before then. And the rural people will inherit the world. That's prediction. Because we here now in the urban areas, in the just in general the world, but especially the Western world, we're so completely fucked. Nobody's having kids, and the thing is, the people who are having kids, they're rural, and I don't think there's a lot more world out there in the rural area than the fucking cities. They're I'm kind of hopeful. I am. I don't know.
a good question to have moving forward, because if we all have Elon's chips in our heads, then thinking is over anyways. Even saying that, my brain really wants to push back against it, holding on to my ideologies of how important education is. But if we really think about it, if AI is running the world and solving all of our problems, does it matter if kids can't write an essay or solve a math problem? I'm really not sure.
I think it's terrible the students use AI to write their essays. At the same time, however, I believe that students using AI is the product of centuries-old systems that values grades over actual learning. Imagine my shock when they eliminate the phone system and kids don't understand letter sounds. Oh, eliminate the phonics system and kids don't understand the letter sounds. Sorry, read that wrong. The parents could no longer deal with their own kids, and it's not just a numbers game. The children had no basic social skills. They had their mobile devices taken away, and they had to communicate face to face. It was sad. They didn't know how to argue with each other, and taking away that iPad showed clearly addiction level reaction. The only other contraband with an equally negative reaction was cigarettes. Walk. Yeah. I just graduated high school with English honors. I cannot express how grateful I am to my parents who read to me every night, took me to the library constantly, and gave me a plethora of book recommendations during my childhood and teenage years. It has fostered a deep love for literature in me that extends beyond just the classroom. I truly love to read. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for letting me slip through the, for not letting me slip through the cracks and become a student who can't read. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, a lot of people are lucky as shit when their parents kind of, you know, are smart and teach their fucking kids. Me, I didn't have fuck all. I didn't have none of that shit, bro. You, like, bro, the internet raised my ass. And luckily I got out safe. Fucking found the history and philosophy and all that shit. Anyway, boys, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll catch you boys on the next one. Take care of yourself.